Hello and welcome to ACT Prep. I'm your English teacher, Miss APR. We have been digging into all of these skills. Today we are going to be looking at pronoun agreement, or pronouns as a whole, and some of those are going to be your pronoun antecedent agreement. We are still working within the conventions of standard English main skill, and we know that this particular set of skills conveys more than half of your ACT English test. We worked with sentence structure and we finished all of the sub-skills under sentence structure, and now we are working on our usage skills. Usage includes that subject-verb agreement, pronoun antecedent agreement, pronoun forms and cases, vague or ambiguous pronouns, frequently confused words, as well as idiomatic prepositional phrases. The last time we met, we worked with some of these skills. We're going to work with the rest of those skills today. So we're going to specifically look at pronoun antecedent agreement, pronoun forms and case, as well as vague or ambiguous pronouns. And so that will kind of help solidify your skills on the usage section of the ACT. The last time that we met, I talked about a chart that I would show you as far as singular versus plural and how that you identify those singular and plural verbs that go with singular or plural subjects. Here is that chart, your pronoun antecedent agreement chart. Like subjects and verbs, pronouns must agree with their antecedent in both number and gender. Gender is important with your pronoun antecedent agreement. So masculine singular is he, his, or him. So you see subject, possessive, and object. So all of these singular subjects or pronouns must also have a singular verb that goes along with it. If you're talking about one man, then it would be singular, he. Or if you're in possession, his, or if he's the object of the preposition, it's him. And I'm going to stop here and let you guys kind of review this. I would definitely encourage you to write this list. Keep a copy of it in your notebook, but study these. And before we get into the political side, because I'm not going to touch the political side of pronouns with a 10-foot pole, but what I do want you to understand is just like conventions of standard English, there are patterns. So in the essay that you are reading, how has that person been referred to? If you don't know the gender of the person when you first read their name, but in an essay, they will always have gender identity somewhere that they've previously used before they test you on the pronoun that goes with that person. So follow the pattern, maintain the pattern of those nouns that your pronouns are referring back to. So you should have this list written down. So let's look at some of the ideas or some of the things that, some ideas that will help you with these. Some items that test pronoun antecedent agreement may also test your ability to correctly form subject pronouns, object pronouns, as well as possessive pronouns. One common mistake that most students will make when forming a pronoun is using a contraction instead of the correct form of a possessive, or using a possessive instead of a contraction. Remember, we talked about it is. The contraction for it is equivalent to the IT apostrophe S. IT apostrophe S will never be possessive. IT apostrophe S is always a contraction, meaning it is. So always keep that in mind. Just because you see an apostrophe S does not mean it is a possessive. Apostrophe S on a noun will always be a possessive, but on a pronoun will never be a possessive. I know that's confusing, but that's one of those skills that you have to memorize, okay, so that you can be really good at it. So to avoid these mistakes, you should always try to read out a contraction instead of just kind of going by it. Always read it out in a sentence. One hard, fast rule that you can count on. Possessive pronouns don't have apostrophes. If a pronoun has an apostrophe, it's a contraction. It is not possessive. Can I say that one more time? A possessive pronoun will never have an apostrophe. An apostrophe on a pronoun will always be a contraction. And a contraction is two words, has a subject and a verb. Always, always, always. Hammer that in as much as you can. So let's look at some items that ACT tests you on these pronoun antecedent agreements. There are 3 of them. So let's look at 2, and then I'm going to let you work 1 with your partner. Number 40, using the shards, many of whose are adorned with alphabetic symbols and assorted patterns, Shin constructed her mural. Whoo! Whose? Let's go back to that over here. Do we see whose? We don't. So it's not whose. We know whose is not correct. So we know it's not no change. Many of which. Which is your pronoun for talking about shards. The shards which are adorned with alphabetic symbols and assorted patterns. Which refers back to shards. It wouldn't be whom, because whom refers back to a person, right? So that could be a him, a her, not an it. That is not, does not work there either. So let's look at number 43. For Shin, the shards themselves took on significance. They represented her feelings. They refer back to shards. Her refers back to Shin. Let's keep going. Her feeling of being broken off or fractured from their birthplace of soul. Well, we know Shin has been singular the whole time. One person. Well, we know that they're talking about her. They're talking about Shin because they're talking about a birthplace, their birthplace. So we know it's going to be her. Why isn't it be? We've got an apostrophe, so we know that stands for they are. Well, we know they will never be a person, a singular person. I'm going, this thing is, they is plural. And it's only referring to Shin, so we know it's not they. It's is non-human. It's a thing. And we know Shin is a person, so we know it's not its. It has to be her birthplace. All right? I'm going to get to this next one, 72, and I want you to work with a partner, and then I want somebody in your class to report on why the best answer has already been indicated for you. Good. All right, I heard it's no change. Good job. No change because it is in there correctly. It does not have an apostrophe, so we know it's the pronoun, and it is studying the TD, right? Achieve its transformation. We know TD is an it. It's a thing. So it is correct. You guys did a fantastic job on that one. Now let's look at pronoun forms and cases. There are 2 items for pronoun forms and cases. So let's look at number 25, and then I'm going to let you do 36 with a partner. Stripe Spotter has proved so useful that its developers plan to design similar programs for identifying other animals. Well, I see IT apostrophe S. its developers, it is developers, because we know that an apostrophe S, if I have to hammer this into your head, an apostrophe S is not possessive on a pronoun. An apostrophe is what? That's right, good job. It's a contraction. So we know it's not no change. We have an apostrophe here. We know it's not that. So let's look at these two possible answers. So is it the developer's plans, if you had IT apostrophe S, that it is developers plan to? That doesn't sound right at all. So we know that that's not correct. So its developers plan to design similar programs. Its goes back to the stripe spotter. All right, so now I want you to work 36, and I want someone in your class to come up and explain 36 and why J is the best answer. Good job. This was probably one of the easiest ones for me. I have an apostrophe here, so I know that's not correct. I have it is, and I know that this is supposed to be a pronoun talking about Celadon, the ceramic ware. So it's an it and an it. So if I have for, then I know it is not going to come after for. So it has to be, oh, it can't be this because it has a contraction. It's aquamarine glaze. ITS is the possessive form for Celadon or the ceramic ware, named for the aquamarine glaze. So J is the only answer that works there. Again, possessive pronouns don't have apostrophes. Write that down, write it big, write it on a star in your notebook. It will never have an apostrophe because it's a contraction if it has an apostrophe S and it's a pronoun. All right, now let's talk about vague or ambiguous pronouns. What does that even mean? What is an ambiguous pronoun? Well, let's see what our slide is telling us. The ambiguous pronoun is a common type of error found in student writing. Sometimes a pronoun may seem to be referring to the wrong antecedent. In other cases, the antecedent may be unstated or unknown. So sometimes a writer may need to completely rephrase a sentence in order to avoid vague or ambiguous pronouns. In other cases, using a noun instead of a pronoun may be enough to correct the error. It's important when you're looking at vague or ambiguous pronouns to refer back to some of the previous text so that you know you can identify what that particular pronoun is trying to refer back to. And sometimes you have to read it several times before you can understand what that particular pronoun is referring back to. This particular test that you guys took, that practice test that you took, only has one ambiguous or vague pronoun that it's testing you on, and let's see what that looks like. Anderson begins the show by referencing the technology to which she was privy at NASA. Anderson then complements these references by subtly demonstrating its impact on music. What's impact on music? Or whose impact on music? What is impacting the music? So it takes some time to go back, and you see that we have to go back to the previous sentence to see that it's talking about the technology's impact on music, okay? And so we know that the best answer is the technology's impact. If we go to ones or this, that's still very ambiguous. We know that that doesn't work. We don't know what it is referring to on the impact of music until we go back to that previous sentence. So we reinstate the word technology's impact on music. That is all that I have for ambiguous pronouns and pronoun case and pronoun antecedent agreement. If you need additional help, remember we gave you 3 practice tools or websites that you can practice. You have No Red Ink, you have Khan Academy, and you have Grammar Monster. Y'all report back to me what you think about Grammar Monster. Hopefully you've had some time to practice with it. I want to know what you think about it. So let me know what you think about Grammar Monster. Until next time, happy learning.